Sky Ripper, but ancient codices held hints of other things. A stone that ate souls, a ruby that drank blood, a jewel only a righteous man could give away. Were all these things the Iblis Stone? Long hidden in a buried temple? Another ancient item that was only resurfacing now? Drawn up from the deeps by the Emperor's horrific rituals? The air here tasted bitter. The steps were too tall for a person. The entire place felt restless, like it had been vexed to nightmare under the dust, waiting for its hour to come around at last. Chill out! Ravens were already here, cawing in frustration. They were still searching for a way in. Good. Then he hadn't come too late. Bernardo had been the terror of the sandcastles when he was 2. Wallabies, he thought. Why did it have to be wallabies? Dreams may come, he thought. And then he found out.
Renato had heard stories of a dungeon where chests were filled with potions and weapons. Fairy tales. He'd once met a pirate captain who used hooks to get around his ship. Oh, what was his name again? Should really look for another line of work, he thought. And then he died.
Kill the rebel! Caught one, Raven. Eat the rebel! Caught another.
Oh, they really ought to put a railing on this thing, he thought.
Right.
Sensed the jewel's power. He had a feeling they were going to be great friends. Give me a lever, said Archimedes, and I shall open a gate. Well, he'd always wanted to do that.
Smell any better dead than I'd have thought.
The Ravens at least could not get past this point. Obviously, the temple builders knew how to deal with tomb raiders. What did you do if one of these platforms stalled?
This couldn't be good for global warming. It was a stone of the purest blackness. It reflected no light, like a void made solid. It was the stone, eager, thirsty. Kill the Emperor's daughter. Now you. That seemed tempting and terribly wrong. Zenobia was the Emperor's greatest general and a potent witch. But they had been close once, and Renato wasn't sure he really wanted to be Emperor. Why not capture the core of Skyripper instead? It was the eye of a lost god torn out by the transcendent Emperor to power his greatest weapon. "It's the core," said the stone anxiously. Listening to a talking rock? Ah, but the rock had a point. If the stone could truly turn him into a powerful warrior, he could defeat the Emperor with the very weapon the wicked old toad had sought for himself. To be a hero, you had to sacrifice old friends sometimes.
As he placed the impossibly black crystal in his gauntlet, Renato had a sudden vision. Charred fields covered in dead ravens below a black sun.
Was it the time of the lost gods before the transcendent emperor? Was it the future? Feed souls. It whispered. Take the power. He could feel the stone's hunger for souls. Its thirst for blood. All right, I get it. This was going to be interesting.
That's the traitors!
Is a very cool sword, thought Renato. No, seriously. He couldn't feel his paw anymore.
Once you try it, you're hooked.
The ravens on Zenobia's island were no match for Renato. They screamed as the stones sucked out their souls. And with each death, he felt stronger. Take the power, the stone told him. I need more materials, thought Renato. You never knew where the road would take you, thought Renato. It wasn't his fault. They looked so breakable. From the mystical East could make time itself slow for you. Couldn't do worse with Zenobia than he'd done with the core, could he? Can't be dying, he thought. I'm the hero. Boy, someone has spent a lot of money for a graduation present. Ha! Bet you never saw that coming. Zenobia was waiting for... Hey! Hey, a workbench! He could try out his new bling. This chest contained a Vorpal sword. I'm just kidding. Vorpal swords don't exist. Finally, Renato caught up to her. He had never seen her scared before. At school, she'd been the determined, brave one. Please, no, said Zenobia. Not that way. Oh, they had been so close once. Could he really feed her soul to his demonic gem? But if he spared her, he would not get the full power of the stone. Oh, how could he be the hero he wanted to be? With a flick of his wrist, he slashed Zenobia's throat. Her eyes widened even more. And then the light went out of them. Renato felt amazing. Power was rushing into him like water from a burst dam. Oh, such radiance, exulted the Iblis stone. Tasty. The Nexus was beautiful. He never realized how beautiful. Everything glowed. The wind was so sweet. The sun so soft. The stones so warm. The black raven feathers. Black feathers. Suddenly, his eyes are filled with them. He's falling through smoke, under a dead sun. A voice calls him home. Is this a vision? Whose? Is this the time of the lost gods? Or the future? No matter. What mattered now was killing his way to the Imperial outpost and challenging the Emperor from there.
Renato, smash! Or I could go that way, he thought. There was blood on this one, so it hadn't saved its owner.
Up ahead was Lapino. What was he doing here? Bernardo! Hey, buddy! Hey there, old buddy! Please don't kill me! Why would I kill you? Asked Bernardo, although he had been thinking about it. Well, you've become... no, I mean, no disrespect at all here. Kind of evil? Maybe you should, I don't know, go to the mountains to have a think? See if maybe you're sure the stone is not all that healthy a thing to keep? I suppose you wanted, Bernardo said, and poked Lapino in the chest for emphasis. Oh, had he just killed Lapino? Oh, damn it. Building these platforms was so expensive, they'd run out of budget for guardrails. Bernardo rampaged through the Imperial outpost like a water buffalo rampaging. At the last moment, he remembered not to kill the Farspeaker Toad. After all, he wanted a word with the Emperor. But there was only silence. The Emperor was scared, like little girl. Well, he would gather the rebel army and slaughter the Imperial fleet. Yes! Applauded the Iblistone. Tremendous. Then the Emperor would have to answer his Farspeaker, wouldn't he? Who are you? Asked a distant voice that sounded uncomfortably like Zenobia. What have you become? The mountains. Go to the mountains, urged another that sounded a bit like Lapino. What are you doing? Demanded the Iblistone. I need to think, Bernardo told it. You're not good at thinking. said the Iblastone. Why were there Raven Scouts here in the empty mountains? Was there nowhere he could find peace and quiet? There were other ravens here too. Shadowy ones, transparent, lining the path. Ghosts. They cawed as he passed, but they didn't try to stop him. Spectators. Had he really killed that many ravens? Then he saw her. Zenobia. She was a ghost too. She ran off when she saw him. How could a ghost be afraid? He followed her. He had to. Renato followed Zenobia's ghost. Had he gone mad, seeing ghosts? Was she running from him or leading him somewhere? He'd come here to be alone, but he'd never been less alone in his life. Every raven he had slain haunted these rocks. Was this who he was? A killer. He was terribly good at killing. He was an adventurer. Or was that just another word for killer? You kill, whispered the stone. It is what you must. Embrace this destiny. Somebody had been watching. Unwounded. Renato had learned so much about... Ooh, what was it again? Renato hoped his mother wasn't watching.
as for the gate, well, he could take her or leave her. Sorry. He tried to focus on the job he had to do. The rebellion. Wasn't there a battle coming soon? There'd be ravens to kill. Even an emperor. Such killing. Much wow. Ooh, he'd never been so excited. At the end of the mountain path, Zenobia awaited him. He could see right through her.
Why did you kill me? She said. I was your prisoner, and I loved you. I needed the power, he said. Haven't you heard? There's a war on.
Then what's your excuse for killing me?
Asked his old friend Lapino, stepping out of the shadows. Bernardo didn't have an answer for that. The demon has twisted you, said Zenobia. Abandon the stone. You've lost too much already. Her words bit deeper than any sword ever had. So he shook his head, and once again swung his blade through her and Lapino. It had to all mean something. If he gave up the stone now, he would have sacrificed Zenobia and Lapino for nothing.
So, Renato set course for the Imperial fleet, where he would end it all. The Emperor, the war, the madness. Renato boarded an Imperial ship. No one could stop him slashing his way towards the Emperor. Yes, that was right. To give up now would be to lose everything for nothing. But if he could liberate the land from the Mad Emperor, then he could give up the stone in peace. And those were absolutely his own thoughts, not the stone manipulating him, right?
Oh, yes, exulted the stone. Feel your power. You'll make history today.
He could hear a tiny voice within him.
Don't kill the Emperor. The stone will eat your soul. Was it madness? I have to kill the Emperor, he told himself. That's what it meant to be a hero. To do what had to be done, no matter how terrible the cost. Yes. And then you can have peace, promised the stone.
Once, he found a Superman issue #1 in mint condition in a jar he'd broken. He planned to keep breaking things until he had the whole series.
If his future self had commissioned these poles. The tiny voice, whatever it was silent. He couldn't see ghosts around him, but he could feel them. If he gave up now, they would be angry. They would have all died for nothing. Who could give up this kind of power? Could anyone? Oh, he was just a fox with a talent for swordplay. How had this burden come to him? The Emperor offered the sword. Then peace. Yes, peace. That is what he wanted now.
You're being burned.
Said Renato to himself. Soon he'd confront the Emperor. Funny that this whole war had come about because the Emperor feared death. Now it was coming for him. There was some sort of lesson there, wasn't there? The Emperor was cowering in front of his ship.
No, please don't kill me.
Croaked Emperor Isengrim III.
Here, take the crown. I don't want it anymore.
You must kill him, or he will have his troops. He will send assassins.
Please, have mercy. The rebellion is won. Or you could be emperor. I'll just go be a scientist, or minstrel, or sell gummy bears. Yeah, I promise not to bother you.
It's your moment. With all the love he'd ever had for Zenobia, for Lapino, for the kit foxes he would never have, Renato raised his sword. And Renato plunged his sword into his own chest. Yes. Wait. What? Renato screamed as his life force ebbed into the stone and surged back into him, and ebbed out and surged back in. Screamed the stone. It began to heat up. What?
stone began to glow. It became white hot. It became lava.
Nice knowing you, said Renato, as the lava ran like butter. And he died. But he'd learned another true thing. The Iblis Stone was evil. It would try to corrupt anyone who used it. There would be a way to win. Renato could feel it. He'd have to explore choices he'd never made before he could figure it all out, though. And with that, the book's pages fluttered to the beginning once again. And he fell. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Renato knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong, but he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis Stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it, to take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. On the other hand, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Lapino was no game changer, but could Renato really leave an old friend to the Ravens? Lapino. Apparently, the Mad Rabbit had sold a Pegasus that he did not exactly own. Lapino always wiggled out of trouble, given... Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen a winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait, where was the prison? The village was empty. Had everybody fled the Ravens? I'll just have a dash, thought Renato.
The ravens had taken the town. Renato had seen villages emptied like this. All the people taken away to be sacrificed in the Emperor's secret rituals. Renato hoped the people were just hiding.
Sorry, mustache, thought Renato.
Renato had tried everything. Zenobia had loved him to death. The Sky Ripper destroyed everything. The Iblistone had corrupted everyone who held it. He'd never put much faith in Lapino. But Lapino was all he had left. Who are you looking at? Oh, right. No one. He was more and more extraordinary.
The sword felt even colder.
What was behind that door? Renato's nose told him there was treasure there. They must have forgotten it in a hurry. Surely they wouldn't mind if he helped himself to it. After all, they wouldn't even know. See? With enough leverage, you could go anywhere. He wished there were more pylons he could use the hook on. Really needed to construct additional pylons. Fresh socks, thought Renato. Please be fresh socks.
Ravens were landing everywhere. The advance guard. He'd better get moving. If they got to Lupino first, they'd eat him for breakfast. Or a snack. Ravens weren't picky. If they got hungry, they sometimes forgot to interrogate their prisoners. Even top spies like Lupino. Where had the mad rabbit got to? The mysterious sword from the east made you so fast you could catch a fly with your chopsticks. If that's what you really wanted.
Around the room yelling, oh yeah, that's how we do it. Yeah, it was something he liked to do, but only after he'd killed all the witnesses.
Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lupino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized the cards.
We capture Zenobia, we find out what she knows, and that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who happened to also be a deadly sorcerer, and, oh, his only daughter? That would be worth it. And it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her. And he felt sure she had one for him. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power. Zenobia wasn't just the Emperor's daughter, of course. The city was already under Zenobia's control. I had to admire her efficiency. Renato shivered at the thought of Zenobia at the mercy of the interrogators. Would he really turn her over to them? But this was war. It wasn't meant to be pretty. This was the nice part of town, but the ravens had been through here. They like to take shiny things home to their nests.
walls only let you through if they think you're hot enough. This stone was incredibly valuable. Bernardo could sense it. Also, it still had its price tag. What exactly was Lupino up to this time? You could see the wheels spinning inside his head. They made Bernardo dizzy, in fact. He hadn't noticed that path before. When I build my castle, thought Bernardo, all my gates are going to open with buttons, and all the levers will drop rocks at your head. So, what's this plan of yours? Use me as bait, said Lupino. And he outlined a slightly complicated plan that involved geese, a net, setting the Farfarer a little bit on fire, Lupino dressing as an old blind toad, and Bernardo hiding inside a monstrous watermelon. What could possibly go wrong? Thought Bernardo. Oh, this is gonna be fun, said Lupino, as he ran to go set up his marvelous plan. You couldn't go sticking jewels in your gauntlet just anywhere. What if you dropped one and broke it? Luckily, there was a bench right here. Ooh, sparkly, thought Bernardo. Renato felt dubious about the whole plan. With every step, he was waiting for it all to go horribly wrong. But against all odds, Peppino's idiotic plan worked. Zenobia's ravens ran off after the geese, the net dropped, and Renato jumped out of the watermelon and put his sword to Zenobia's throat.
Renato, she said. Are those new scars? They look good on you. You never returned my velvet jacket. It was my favorite. You look stupid in velvet. She'd vanished from Swordfu school, from his life, without even saying goodbye, without ever telling him she was the Emperor's adopted daughter.
Renato was aware of her feelings. Maybe this was a bad idea, but was he letting his own feelings get the better of him?
Ah, Lapina was right, Renato thought reluctantly. She knows things. She recognized his look. You're taking me to the interrogators, aren't you? She said, wide-eyed. Cats can run faster, but foxes can run longer. If he ran, he could head her off before she reached her minions at the outpost. Well, he did love a good chase. It's a birdsicle!
Sometimes, all you know is what you know. You know? Imagine if you built a house on one of these things. Oh, that would be amazing. It would be like having a boat. He was closing on her. He could smell her fear. He tried not to think about the interrogators at the secret base. What did they do to her? Maybe it didn't have to end that way. Maybe he could talk to her. But, after all, there were worse things the Imperials had done to friends of his. People had laughed at the government workbench placement program. But you could see the benefits everywhere. Bernardo reached the outpost. The Imperials there were no match for him. Soon after, Zenobia limped up the path. When she realized he was already in front of her, she didn't even try to run. "Oh, you left without saying goodbye." Again, he said, "Please, I'm enjoying this a little too much." She said, shaken. "Oh, spare us the chit-chat, would you?" said Lapine. All the way back to the Farfarer, Lapino nagged Renato about how the interrogators would pry all the intel out of Zenobia. How that would turn the tides in the imminent battle. All they had to do was take her to the rebel secret base. Renato didn't like to think about what the interrogators would do to her. Couldn't he just talk to her? As they pulled away from the Nexus, Renato could see the fear in Zenobia's eyes. "I can't take her to those creatures at the base," he whispered to Lapino. "Ah, you've gone soft. Soft in the head. We captured her for what she knows. I'll take her to the mountains. Tell all the horrible things the Emperor's done. Yeah, believe me, she'll turn." And he turned the wheel. "The hell you will!" shouted Lapino, and he grabbed the wheel back from him. The two of them wrestled for control of the ship. It shot off like a mad sparrow. Suddenly, Renato was falling. When he came to, Zenobia was standing over him. "Why didn't you take me to the base to be interrogated?" she demanded. "Do you know what's left of people they interrogate? This is some trick, isn't it? To make me fall for you again. Well, I won't." "Oh, go on then. Scurry back to your ravens. I can't stop you." But strangely, she didn't. As Renato set off to find the Farfarer, she followed him, keeping just out of sight of the ravens. Delicious looking eyeballs, cawed the lead raven. "Thank you, I think," said Renato. It never hurt to be polite. There was an inscription. "Praise the sun." Renato felt a little bad stealing crafting materials from chests. He preferred to rob them from people, sword point.
As Renato stopped to sniff the wind, Zenobia came up, still mad. Did you really think you'd just talk me into betraying my father? Oh yeah, sure, that was exactly my plan. Then why aren't you even talking to me? Because I've never talked you into anything in my life. They're gonna court-martial you for letting me go. He caught a whiff of the Farfarer. Wet rope, tar, and a cask of Scoble ale he'd spilt last year.
It was that way. Renato was remembering all his old tricks, and some new ones. Now, he really ought to ask for a raise.
Brilliant. Lovely. Hold that pose.
There was a cat in this one, and something useful. There were stickers all over the platform for really hot lady foxes, with pictures and addresses and everything. Renato wondered if he should have taken Zenobia to the rebel base for real. Maybe she wasn't playing him after all. After the bleak talk about the Emperor's dark secrets, he was regretting his suspicion.
Sure enough, the Farfarer had crashed in some rocks. There was no sign of Lupino. Zenobia caught up. All that kid stuff in Swordfu School. Look, that's the past. We're adults now. We have duties to other people. We have destinies.
What are you talking about? And you are the most arrogant, slow-witted, light-fingered, mercenary, immoral, reckless... Run away with me, said Renato, and he realized he meant it. What? Just like that? She demanded. I will, if you will. So she kissed him. And it was the best kiss he'd ever had.
They held hands as they boarded the Farfarer.
Renato felt light-hearted, like the winds that were playing the rigging like a balalaika. But Lupino, I need to get back to Lupino, he said, suddenly realizing he could have been captured. A prisoner.
He's not.
How'd you know? He saw something in her eyes he didn't understand. He fell, didn't he? Into the abyss.
She looked away, wouldn't answer.
But then a bolt smashed through the Farfarer's keel. The broken ship plummeted out of the clouds.
Renato picked himself off the deck. They were alive.
We have to get to my private ship, she said. Do you trust me? I guess I must, he said. You go on ahead. Clear the path, she said. I can't kill my own soldiers.
He wanted to say that he didn't trust her, that he had no idea what he was getting into. But he had no choice, did he? He was following his heart. That's what it means to be a hero. You had to follow your heart. What's behind door number 2? This one looked familiar. Had he lost this one in a card game? Welcome back, he thought.
They paused to catch their breath. It was strange to be so close to her. What are you thinking? He asked. I'm trying very hard not to think. Me too, he said. Up ahead, he could see the thin silver of Zenobia's personal ship. It looked fast. They would leave all this behind. It was a bit windy up here. As they reached her ship, Renato suddenly felt a sharp pain in his stomach. He was surprised to see a crossbow bolt sticking out of it.
I was going to lead the Empire to our secret base, said Lapino. But no, you had to screw up my plan because you still got a thing for her.
Renato stared at Zenobia. The kiss. Was it real? She said, with a look of indescribable sorrow. She gestured and said an arcane word, and Lapino went flying into the abyss, screaming, "I'm telling your father!" Then she knelt down to cradle his head, and her paws felt very soft and warm. He should go back to some of the choices he'd faced before. Maybe there were new paths that had opened up, like those doors he was opening up all over the map that took him to new treasures and around his enemies. But he'd learned another true thing. Lapino was a traitor. Renato had suspected there was something wrong with the mad rabbit, but now he knew there was malice behind his goofiness. The book's pages fluttered to the beginning once again, faster than before, and he fell. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Renato knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong, but he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it, to take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion, and he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage. Renato finally realized that Lapino was a traitor to the cause, and maybe Renato could use that somehow. Renato couldn't quite put his paw on when he'd realized Lapino was working for the Empire. He'd never exactly seen Lapino sending coded messages to the palace, but he was sure. The rabbit had been on too many disastrous missions where he was the only survivor, or where he accidentally missed getting on the boat that went down to the abyss in flames. If Renato could prevent Lapino from getting back to the fleet with all the intelligence he'd probably gathered, it might be worth the trip. How had they come to this? They'd been on so many adventures together. Lapino had talked Renato out of prison at least 4 times, and Renato had rescued Lapino from at least 2 lynch mobs. Felt that the rabbit resented him. Lapino was hilarious because he was so down on himself and everyone else. But behind the laughs, he wasn't a happy camper. Ooh, was this payback? Or did the Empire have his little white tail in a vice? Anyone ever tell you have a lovely eye? No? Ravens were landing everywhere from dropships. He'd better get moving. If they got to Lapino first, the rabbit would give the Empire all the intelligence he'd been stealing from the rebellion, and they'd probably give him a medal. He'd have to be very careful about how he played Lapino. At the slightest hint of danger, the mad rabbit would take off like a rabbit.
This chest had teaspoons stolen from every inn in Boreas. Oh, and something more useful.
That could come in handy in a pinch.
Pino would betray him. The call was dangerous. And Renata had a fleeting idea that the two ideas went together somehow. And then it was gone again.
Ah, damn ideas. They never stuck around when you needed them.
Had that door been opened before?
Bloody and exhausted, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing shuffling his favorite deck.
Oh, I am. The ravens are coming. Now, I got a clever plan to kidnap Zenobia.
Renato wanted to clap shackles on the rabbit and shout, "You're a traitor, and I'm not falling for it." But if there was one thing Renato was sure of, it was that the core of the Sky Ripper was dangerous mostly to its user. If he could put it in the Emperor's hands, old Isengrim III might blow himself and his fleet up with it. Yes, that was it. felt like a real hero, brave and smart. He told the rabbit all about the Skyripper's God's Eye core.
I'll go get the core while you attack Zenobia.
He told the rabbit.
Wait, I've an even better idea. I'll get the core and you attack Zenobia,
Said the rabbit.
Right, yeah, that is better,
Agreed Renato. Perfect. The traitor would make sure the Emperor got the core. Now Renato just needed the Emperor to use the core. If he could only get something that the Emperor wanted very badly. Zenobia. He could save her and bait the Emperor at the same time. Right. Now, all Renato had to do was fight his way through Zenobia's invading troops, sneak onto her ship and into her bedroom, and kidnap her without any of her dozens of guards alerting her.
Then he would rely on her love for him to convince her how evil her father was, so she'd run away with him instead of going back to her father, who was going to blow himself up.
It did sound a little risky. But Renato had a feeling it would work out somehow. It always did. It would be fun to try out that one. And here was a handy workbench. Maybe I should follow my nose, thought Renato. This chest was filled with old concert t-shirts. And something useful. Renato was halfway to Zenobia's encampment when Lapino showed up. He was disheveled and distraught.
They jumped us. I barely got away. Oh, they got the core.
Oh, it was all going according to plan, thought Renato. Now he just needed Zenobia on his side. Yes, that was even better. The Iblis Stone. Zenobia could get it. And then the Emperor would have to pursue them. Wait. No. The gem would corrupt anyone. Even her. That's it, he thought. Even Lapino. Even though Lapino was already a traitor. It would turn him against his secret master, the Emperor. He would try to make himself Emperor. And the Emperor would have to defend himself with the core. Boom. He was a super genius. This is terrible, Renato told the rabbit. If only I had gone for the Iblis Stone. But now it's lost in enemy territory. He handed Lapino a map. It gives the bearer so much power. We can only hope the Emperor never finds it.
What was that?
Said Lapino.
I think someone's following us.
I didn't hear anything.
Rabbit ears. You go on ahead. I'll check it out.
And with that, Lapino hopped off with the map. Now he could slice the wings off a fly in the air. Not that he would. It's sort of mean, really. Gone rather well, actually. His. Renato slinked through Zenobia's ship, making no sound at all. She was curled up on her bed. He'd forgotten how beautiful she was, how sleek, how soft. He tapped her on the shoulder with his sword. She was made of smoke, and he noticed he had a very solid blade to his throat. "Did you really think you could capture me?" purred a familiar voice. "I just wanted to chat," said Renato. "Did you ever wonder why the Emperor adopted you? He needs a sacrifice Someone who truly loves him, to make a bargain with the lost gods.
That's a vicious lie. He wants to bring them back. Oh, that's crazy. Why would anyone...
They could make him immortal. An eater of souls. And with that, her eyes widened. She understood. Renato told her how he had rescued a priest whose order had been massacred. How he had slept in a burnt village. At midnight, the Emperor's victims had come to him in his dreams to tell him of the hideous eldritch rituals they'd been sacrificed in. He could still see those kittens and puppies. Their wide, sad eyes, their moist noses.
You can't prove that.
I've got a witness at the observatory. He couldn't tell her, not yet, why he was really here. He didn't want her to be anywhere near the fleet when her father blew himself and the Pino up. So he told her about how the Emperor's obscene rituals had raised ancient artifacts out of the land. How he'd followed the appalling trail of the hideous horrors His Majesty had perpetrated for the sake of his own immortality. Any of this ring a bell? He said.
He told me it was all lies.
You've always known when I was lying. I always hated that about you, said Renato. The rebellion had started after atrocities that the Empire hushed up. Renato had rescued a priest whose order had been massacred for one book. He had slept in a burnt village. Dead kittens and puppies had come to tell him what the Emperor had done to them.
These platforms were great. Renato wanted one for his house.
Truth was, Renato really liked the sound his sword made in the air.
It was time for a little exploration.
done beautifully. Where was a bard when you needed one?
Don't you think I'd know if my father started practicing black magic? Why? Would you join in? No. I'd destroy his books and I'd... Oh, God. Okay, you're not completely wrong. They've resurrected one of his victims. Well, look, it's not exactly alive, but it can talk. A true witness, she said.
This was definitely better than pulling yourself up in a bucket.
The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists and black feathers everywhere. The Ravens had taken special care to burn the reanimated witness to cinders. Zenobia stared at the carnage. He didn't want me to hear the witness, did he? I guess not. What's your plan? She asked. So, Renato explained his brilliant gambit. Sending Lapino to get the Iblis Stone, become super powerful and corrupted, provoke the Emperor into using the core against him, thus blowing up both of them, and hopefully the fleet too. Let me visit your council, she said, shaken. I want to help.
Could he really trust her?
Done it. He'd made Zenobia see how evil her father really was. He wished she didn't feel this urge to join in the rebellion. After all, he'd taken care of the Emperor, right? Yeah, but she'd always been conscientious like that. She told him she had to go somewhere first. So Renato gave her the location of the secret base, and they agreed to meet in the ruins. He had a very good feeling about this. What had Zenobia gone off to do? What was more important than meeting the Rebel Council? Had he made a mistake, sending her to the ruins? No. He knew they could trust each other. He could trust her because she never broke her word. And she could trust him because she could see right through him. Well, she'd probably be there well before him. She at least didn't have to fight her way through rainstorms of ravens.